Alright, what's going on, guys? A little different video. In this one, we're going to talk about a question we get asked a ton on YouTube, Facebook, a little bit of everything. Guys asking, what are some of the best walleye summer lures for fishing kind of everywhere walleyes live? So we're going to kind of go into basically some of our favorite lures. We're going to keep it to 4 for now, that you have confidence that you can go out on any lake where walleyes live right now, and at least one of those, probably a couple of those, is going to catch some walleyes for you. Alright guys, so we're going to start out with some live bait options here. And the first one, which we do a ton of, is spinner rig fishing. Spinner rig fishing is one of those things that will work everywhere walleyes live during the summer months. It's a great way to present live bait on a moving target, right? You're trolling this along either down a weed edge or over open water or over deep rocks, mud. All that stuff doesn't really matter. It's basically the point that you can put a crawler on here, you can put a leech on here, you can put a minnow on here, and cover a ton of water with live bait. And that's just something you can't do unless you're drifting something or using a slow death. But spinner rigs are just extremely popular, and in the summer they literally catch fish everywhere. So basically in the summer,
crawler harness, and then go over to single. Here's the 2 styles we use.
One's a leech harness, that would be just a single hook, and then obviously your worm harness, which is generally a tandem hook, you know, to hold the crawler on there. So you know, we use these the most in the early summer. We might be fishing really tight to a weed edge, like running the boat in, what would you say, Mitch, 10, 12, 13 feet of water a lot of times?
15, yeah. And
hand lining a rod with a spinning rod, kind of like this clip here. You know, we're just holding it, I'm manipulating that rod with my hand, and I'm just running one rod, you know, or 2 rods out of the boat. One guy holding one basically off each side of you. You know, as the summer progresses and you start getting fish spreading out across deeper structure, then we start pulling spinners on planer boards like you've seen us do a lot recently. And when we're doing that, we're almost always using crawlers this time of year. We're using this tandem rig and a bottom bouncer, which is another important part. There's all sorts of different weights you can run. Typically I like running bottom bouncers, either 1 ounces or 2 ounces. Most of the time around here I'm running 1 ounces, and you know, it makes it really easy to run 6 rods. You know, put everything on a planer board and you can cover a ton of water with a crawler. Like I said, the specifics on it's changed, but there's not a whole lot of ways where you can cover this much water with live bait, and a crawler is an extremely effective way to do that really all summer long. Alright guys, so the next thing we use a ton of in the summer is a slip bobber. I'd say we really don't use slip bobbers a whole lot in the spring. Definitely a lot early summer and into summer.
Starting in early mid-June and still doing it right now, even though that bite is fading.
Yeah, so anytime, when you're slip bobbering, fish obviously have to be on structure. So if we have, you know, it's kind of another great way to present live bait besides a jig. You know, a lot of times just hanging, you know, either a crawler or a leech or whatever it is up above that fish's head is a great way to get a bite, and that's why we use a lot of slip bobbers. What are some specifics, I guess, you know, where are we fishing slip bobbers?
Well, like Tom was saying, we're fishing over mostly deep rock structure, or mid depth to deep. So early June, mid-June, we're looking at 15-foot range. We want to target that. Right now we're looking, what, 25 to 30 feet, you know, of rock.
20 to 30.
20 to 30, yeah.
Yeah, and a slip bobber, you know, in northern Wisconsin, we don't have rock reefs that go for 5 miles or 2 miles or a mile.
Very small.
So we're fishing really small microstructures where these fish are always set up on. So that's why we use a slip bobber a lot of times, because we don't have to cover a lot of water to get a bait in front of fish. And a slip bobber is a great way to do that. You know, we run those Thill wobble bobbers in either 1/4 or a 3/8 ounce. Load them up with some weight on there. Run that big long lead if you're fishing clear water, and you're going to be able to present fish. Basically just a floating piece of live bait, which we use a ton of really all season long, but especially in the summer. Anything else on that one?
No, pretty simple setup, and it's always fun watching a bobber go down.
Yeah, and if you're new to walleye fishing and you're like, man, you know, I just don't know what to get, definitely get some slip bobbers. It's just a super effective way to fish, and it's kind of just a staple, definitely for what we do. And I think really they're kind of underutilized overall for a lot of guys that were walleye fishing.
Yeah, I'd say if it's your first time out in the lake a while and you're trying to find structure like that, I think it's a good way to start the day, and
simple.
You know, put some live bait in front of them. You're gonna know if the bite is on pretty soon.
Alright guys, so now we're going to move on to some artificial stuff. There's basically 2 kinds of artificials that I fish more than anything else in the summer, and one has come on extremely strong in the last few years. Speed baits is kind of what I'm starting to call them. Baits that look like this. This is an Acme Hyper Rattle. It's a super heavy bait. It weighs almost an ounce. Another one is a Rapala jigging wrap, and these baits catch a ton of fish. Now this is if you're totally new to this, if you've probably maybe seen this on TV but haven't done it in person, or if you have had success on it, you know how it is. But it's a very weird way to fish for walleyes. It's really a weird way to fish for anything. You can cast these around kind of like anything else, but this bait is basically a super heavy jig that the fish bite off the bottom of the lake typically. So you're gonna pitch it out there on a short range, typically after you found fish in deep water. Now we're not using this in less than 10 feet of water most of the time. It's just so heavy, it falls so fast, and you got to get it off the bottom a little bit. So most of the time we're fishing this, I'd say it's 15 to 30 feet of water, right?
Yeah, just pretty much like the same deep rock structure we were just talking about for slip bobber is going to be the same exact thing with these too.
And the push walleyes go through every single year. They start shallow in May, then they go deep in the middle of summer, and then some will come back shallow in early fall, and then there might be a deep fall bite too. But summer, in the middle of summer, fish are generally deeper than they're going to be a lot of other times a year. So this is a perfect tool to get them. It's an extremely fast way to fish, and basically most of the time we're using these, we're hunting arcs. So we're going around, we're finding the fish first, we're using the big motor to basically back up over those fish and hold position, and we're just dropping these things down right in their face. And we'll air some footage right here catching fish doing this, but it's a super aggressive big yank up. You drop the rod, you slack the line, and when the bait hits the bottom, most of the time those fish pin it right to the bottom, and you go to yank again, it's like getting snagged.
Yeah. Key thing on these two, common thing we see anyways, is make sure when they're dropping to the bottom and they're on a slack line.
Yep.
You don't want to control your fall. You want these to dart. That's how you want
them to dart, and you want it to be extremely fast.
Line. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a speed thing. It's a total reaction bite. Just a very powerful way to fish. The other way would be basically, instead of just hunting arcs, you find some fish on a spot, and you go through and you pitch, make short pitches to them and kind of work the bait. Snap, snap, drop your rod. Snap, snap, drop your rod. And like I said, you'll know you got one when you just go to snap again, and it'll be like getting stuck. So super powerful way to fish. We'll air some more footage of that right here. Just a bait that there might not be another replica of one of these ever made again. A bait that is this powerful and has took walleye fishing in the last 10 years just by storm. These baits are extremely powerful, and if you don't have the confidence in it, get out there and try it, because they are absolute killers.
Yeah, it might be a little awkward at first trying to get the hang of kind of jigging this way. It's
very aggressive,
but once you get the hang of it and you start catching fish,
it'll probably be your favorite way to catch them.
Guarantee it.
Alright guys, so the next thing that I fish an absolute ton of, really all year long, and it kind of varies lake to lake, but if I'm going to a new lake, one bait I always want to have in my box all year long, like I said, is this Kalins Jerk Minnow Jr. or a Jerk Minnow. I love these Jerk Minnow Juniors, use them all year. Probably a little bit more in the spring and fall than I do in the middle of summer here, but like I said, if I'm going to a new lake, I'm absolutely having some of these, and I'm snap jigging these extremely aggressive when I'm using this style of bait. I'm getting a phone call.
What it looks like on the jig.
So there's what it looks like on a jig. Now, most of the time in the summer, like we said, we're fishing for fish that are a little bit deeper, 15 to 25 feet of water most of the time. So most of the time I'm gonna rig this on a 3/8 or 1/2 ounce head fishing this depths, because it's summer, these fish are amped up, the water's warm, they have no fear of moving fast to hit something. So I wanna get that bait down there and snap real hard. And very aggressive pop jigging. I'll show some footage of that right here doing this, but very deadly way to fish. And a lot of times when I'm using this, fish are either on the deep side of a weed edge, or I'd say kind of like on some mid-depth rock or something like that. Something, it's tough to snap jig in like 30 feet of water. Your angle gets too tight, and then you're better off going to something like that Acme Hyper Rattle. So
yeah, for the most part this bite is probably behind us, but
some of it, but on other lakes in other areas, I mean, fish will relate to weed edges all year long.
Yep.
And they do here. We just tend to have better luck fishing live bait or spinner rigs or stuff like that down a weed edge than we do these. But in the spring we crush fish on these, and really they catch fish all year long. That snap jig is an extremely fun way to fish. You can cover a lot of water with a jig that way, especially in some of those intermediate depths. Nobody's really going out to 30 feet of water and trying to snap jig plastics very often, although it probably can be effective. But we use that bait a lot in that 15 to I'd say 20-22 foot zone when we're trying to cover a decent sized area where walleyes are kind of spread out throughout it. So super fun way to fish. We've done a ton of that, filmed a whole bunch of shows on that. We can show some footage with that right here. And it works everywhere. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun, like you said. It's probably
it is
my
fun.
favorite way to fish, I guess, because
I guess we just filmed one the other day on these, didn't we?
Yeah, and this is a style where you want to control that fall. You want to keep your rod still and up high. And we've talked about that many times.
2 different jig styles, yeah.
The greatest feeling is when you feel that thump. When it's on the way down and you feel walleye hit and you know to set the hook, it's just an awesome way to fish. Yeah,
very fun. And if you're looking, like I said, if you're looking to get into walleye fishing and looking to pick up some baits, absolutely get some 3/8, quarter, 1/2 ounce heads, depending on what depth you're gonna fish. and load up on some Kalins jerk minnow junior, something you can cover a lot of water, snap around real hard, and you're gonna fall in love with that bite too. So thanks for watching, guys. I can't really think of anything else right off the top of my head to mention.
I don't think so. This is kind of our 4 favorite lures to fish throughout the summer.
Most of summer this is what we're doing, at least what we're starting with. Yeah, there are other baits that catch fish, yeah, but day in, day out, this is what we're using to catch fish. So good to go?
Good to go.
Well, thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe, stay tuned. We got plenty more videos on the way, and we'll see you guys next time.